After I landed my first job as a penetration tester or professional hacker, I found out my manager didn't care about my hacking skills nearly as much as a few other things. Today, we're gonna dig into what I did right during the interview and what he was actually looking for. Before we jump into that, my name's Alex. I'm an information security geek and a hacker, and on this channel, we look at cybersecurity through the lens of an attacker. We look at ways that we can be more productive, more knowledgeable, and overall happier hackers. About 15 years ago, I wanted to land a job as a penetration tester, or what I felt was a professional hacker, but it felt like an impossible task because I didn't really have the experience a lot of others had. Like, I wasn't a developer. I didn't have 15 years of experience or whatever they were asking for. All I was a security geek who loved computer hacking and loved game hacking. I didn't have any idea on how I could stand out during an interview, how I could demonstrate my skills during a spoken interview, and ultimately I didn't really know what they were looking for. Sometimes it really felt like they didn't really know what they were looking for either. They wanted like 15 years of experience and experience writing Word documents and wingdings. It felt like without 15 years of experience, I didn't have a chance to land my dream job. I got some great advice from friends and family, which was just go for it. Try and apply. What's the worst that can happen? And I'm glad I did. I also reached out to the hiring manager, and it was before LinkedIn was really a thing. So I emailed a couple names, which I thought might have been his. They tend to follow like a first initial last name or first name dot last name. And I reached out and I got him to pull my resume just by geeking out with him a bit. And I'm glad I did, because during the interview is how I ended up landing the job. Almost 15 years later, I still remember what he told me after the interview, and I found out it wasn't my hacking skills that got me hired. It was a few other things. And now that I've been on the other side of the desk and I've been interviewing people, and I've actually done like 50 to 100 interviews, I realize how important the other things are besides hacking skills. But since we are talking a penetration testing interview, let's talk about skills and how those come up during an interview. They tend to come up with one of two ways. Nowadays, oftentimes the company has a lab environment set up, which they're actually to hack. I don't really like this one. Even though it tests more real world abilities, it's very wonky. Like, there's a CTF style, and you know there's vulnerabilities. It doesn't really match real world. It also doesn't really match real world because oftentimes they don't ask for a report. They just want you to test. The second approach litters the candidate with a bunch of different questions across different verticals like social engineering, network, Wi-Fi. I like this approach more because you can find out where a candidate's weak at or where you're weak at. And they're not trying to trip you up. They're just trying to figure out where your knowledge is and where you need to grow a little bit more. And also how you research and if you're able to say you don't know something. I don't really like either of these. The third way I've seen interviews done is they do scenario based. So if we gave you a laptop or if we give you a network, how would you go about testing it? And I like this one the best because then you can really show them a bunch of different ways. Like, oh, I would port scan, I'd banner grab, I'd run Nessus. Oh, do I have permission to attest this? Is there additional scope? There's a lot of different ways you can go. I've also heard people go, oh, I just pick up the laptop and run out the door. The hacking aspects could be a full video unto itself. If you're interested in me doing one, leave a comment. While the hacking stuff is important, for me, it didn't prove to be the most important thing. It's definitely not what I look for in candidates that are applying now. What got me my job, first and foremost, was being well-spoken and well-written. The manager told me I was the only security geek who would clearly communicate risk. And that is the most important skill you have as a penetration tester. Because at the end of the day, you can be the most advanced technical penetration tester. But if you can't articulate what you did and how to fix it and what that risk is, the client's not gonna understand and they didn't get value for the test. Because that's all they get. They only get the report. And if you can't clearly articulate what you did, it works out to be a bad test. Being well-spoken is a lot easier to show during an interview because you're speaking the whole time. Being well-written is a little harder. I was lucky because I had written a blog post about Unreal Tournament 2004 hacking that the manager had seen. So the biggest advice I would give you is write blog posts, write articles, but even if you don't have any of those published, make sure that your resume is clearly polished and any email you send to the hiring manager is clear and precise. The second thing that got me the job that day was being motivated and organized, reaching out to the hiring manager and telling him to pull my resume and get the interview. But organization is such a key part of penetration testing because there's so much to know. You have to understand how to do external testing, mobile testing, database testing. You also have to articulate the difference between PCI compliance and HIPAA compliance and what the penetration testing requirements are. It's a lot to know, and there's no way you can really remember all of it. Organization also comes in because you have to kick off a project, be running a project. While you're finishing up that project, kick off the next one, especially when you're a consultant. So being able to show that you're organized is a key part of being a penetration tester. You can demonstrate being organized during an interview by taking really good notes and doing research on the company and having questions laid out when you get to those sections. Asking questions during an interview is a great way to show that you are organized, that you knew what questions they were gonna ask, what services they were gonna bring up, and that you had questions queued up. Another way to show how organized you are is by talking about how you take notes, whether it's in Notion or another tool. Being able to say, oh, I came across this problem, I researched these things, I captured those ideas in Notion, and then I wrote a blog post about it. Like, being able to show systems that you've built and that you follow is a great way of showing that you're organized. Here's the thing though, the most important thing I demonstrate during an interview and that I look for in anyone I interview now is passion. You have to have passion about information security, because if you don't have passion, you're never gonna keep up with it. There's so much to know across all the different spaces. If you're not passionate about information security, about hacking, you're never gonna succeed as a penetration tester. The way you can show passion is by being involved in open source communities, Hack the Box, writing articles, or just in your voice itself. Sounding excited, sounding enthusiastic is going to do more during the interview process than anything else you say. Because I know if I find someone who is passionate about what they do, they are going to dump in the hours, the time, the effort it takes to succeed, because they love what they do. If I could give myself one piece of advice back then, it would be to embrace the geek I was. Is to talk about the CTFs, the video game hacking, any of the projects I was working on, getting involved in DEF CON. I wish I would have started this YouTube channel earlier, just because it would have demonstrated how much I love this subject. There is so much to talk about with penetration testing, and I know in this video I just skimmed the surface, and I'm really hoping you got something out of it. However, if you're interviewing or if you have questions about an interview, not only have I done them, but I've also been on the other side of the desk. Feel free to leave a comment down below, because I would love to talk to you about them. If you are interested in expanding and being more prepared for the interview, I did a scoping video, which I'll link somewhere here, that you can check out. It will help you scope your penetration testing, or even better yet, if it comes up during the interview, you can impress them with this new way of doing scoping besides just give me the IP addresses. Thank you for watching. Again, if you have questions, leave them as a comment down below and I'll do my best to just review them and answer them. Thanks guys, I really appreciate it. Have a great day.